Earth science.
Take two.
You don't have to say that. They never had to know it was take two. Okay, today we're talking about types, we're going to switch fonts to, of sedimentary rocks. And we have some examples, and maybe we'll go on a field trip. I shouldn't have said that because now I'm obligated to go on a field trip. Types of sedimentary rocks. Okay, so the first main type of sedimentary rocks. The first main type of sedimentary rocks we're going to talk about is clastic. Are you all writing this down too? Yeah. The word clastic comes from the Greek word which means broken. So this.
Mr. Krem, you need to scoot it the other way. Yeah.
Oh, scoot it this way?
No, yeah. Maybe that'll work.
Well, it records the screen while he's writing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's recording the screen too.
Okay.
Yeah, and unlike yesterday where we just used the whiteboard. Good. Thank you, Dally, for worrying about my sanity, which is faltering. You don't know this word maybe, but there's a thing that happens, especially like in the Crusades, called iconoclasm, where people would go into like churches and stuff and break the icons, right? They would like ruin the church icon, and that klasm at the end means the same thing as plastic. It means broken, right? So they would break the icons, iconoclasm. Anyway, so plastic rocks are those that are broken physically. Unlike me, just broken psychologically. These ones are ones that we grade these by their grain size. There's a chart that we're going to look at on page 142. You can't see this chart, but such charts exist on the internet. If you just look up classification of sedimentary rocks, I'm sure you can find a table. But these are broken down by their grain size. So we talk here about the different grain sizes of sedimentary rocks. The largest grain size that we commonly encounter are called pebbles. So we're going to make this list from largest to, well, I'm going to run into my picture. Oh, okay, well, whatever. Okay, small it says, which is fine. Largest to small. So pebbles. The next sediment size lower than pebbles is sand. Lower than that is silt, and lower than that is clay. And there are subcategories of these. Like you can get into things like coarse sand, fine sand. But we're not going to worry about that too much. So pebbles, sand, silt, and clay are the main sizes of plastic sediments. So basically, when a rock gets broken down, the size of its sediment that it forms is one of these. When these come back together, then, we name the rock a different thing based on what size the sediments are that are making it up. So when they get compacted back together or cemented back together, we use these to tell what kind of rock it is. So of the plastic rocks, pebbles, depending on if they're well-rounded or poorly rounded, we call either conglomerate or breccia. So the pebbles form, what would be the best way to write this? Let's just start a new thing. We're going to call these clastic sedimentary rock types. Oh, okay, I don't know why that did that. Types. So if the grain size is pebbles, there are two different names for the kinds of rocks that there are. So pebbles, if they are what we call angular versus rounded. If they are angular, we call it breccia, and if they are rounded, we call it conglomerate. Look, it's conglomerate. It's made of pebbles. Can you now pass it around, please? I don't think I have a sample of breccia right here, very handy. So we'll just go with that. If the grain size is sand, we call it sandstone. If the grain size is silt, we call it siltstone. And if the grain size is clay, we can either call it, depending on the orientation of the clay, like if they're all lined up or not. If they are all lined up, we call it shale, and if they aren't, we call it mudstone. This is an example of sandstone. Look, sand. You can't feel it, but I can, and it feels sandy. That's one way I can tell, actually.
What's the second word?
Shale. And then here's an example of shale with the shale has these layers in it where the clay particles have lined up. So one type of sedimentary rocks is clastic. When it's made of particles that are broken up, they're physically broken and then either compacted or cemented together, we call it clastic sedimentary rock. The next type are what we call chemical sedimentary rock. And these are sometimes, they're made out of minerals that we call evaporites. So these are the ones that are made out of water that has a solution of minerals in it, and then the water evaporates, leaving the minerals behind. So the main one of these is calcium carbonate, which is CaCO3. Do you remember what mineral CaCO3 is? Calcium carbonate. What do we call the mineral that's calcium carbonate? Calcite, yeah. So this is made of the mineral calcite. And this rock we call limestone. This is one of the most common sedimentary rocks. And I have an example in here somewhere. No, the microphone's clear over there. They can't probably hear what I'm saying. Limestone.
That's cool.
Yeah, actually, it is cool. You're right. So since it's made of the mineral calcite, what would happen if we put a little bit of acid on it? It would bubble. It would bubble. We call that property effervescence, right? We also silicate minerals. So we talked about a while ago that silicates they don't really dissolve in water very well. To some extent they do, and when those form in a way of evaporation, we call that, so SiO2, which is silicate, we call that chert. This forms in ocean bottoms or other bodies of water. There was a time period in Earth's history where a lot of chert was formed.
Is that C-H-E-R-T?
C-H-E-R-T, or if it's, let me think, it's chert if it's...
Chert.
Yeah, it's chert if it's chert. It's chert if it's light colored, and it's flint if it's dark colored. So you've heard of flint, I'm pretty sure. And flint is what we call it if it's dark colored. So this is kind of in between. So a person could call that either chert or flint, but it's made out of silicate. It's very, very smooth. In general, the chemical sedimentary rocks feel smooth, whereas the plastic ones feel rough to some extent. Very similar. And I don't have an example of this one, but if it's made out of NaCl, you know what NaCl is. What's NaCl? What's sodium chloride? Salt. It's table salt, right? Table salt. We call this halite. And these are the main kinds of chemical sedimentary rock. There's another one we probably should talk about, which is calcium sulfate, which is gypsum. And the rock is also called gypsum. So it's made of the mineral or gypsum, and the rock is called gypsum too. This is a little example of gypsum. If you've got a house and the house has drywall in it, drywall is made out of gypsum. They get gypsum out of a mine, they grind it all up, they mix it with water, and they lay it out in a flat sheet and let it dry, and it reforms the gypsum. Then the last category of sedimentary rocks is biochemical. So just by the name, you already know this prefix. What's the bio mean? Life, right? It's made of living things. So remember that minerals could not be made by living things, right? Anything that's made by a living thing we cannot consider a mineral. But these are all made by living things. So are any of these made of minerals? No, none of these are made of minerals because they're made by living things. Anyway, so a few of these are coal, which you know what coal is. It's what you get if you're Christmas.
Or it's your stash that you
Coal.
get.
Yeah, don't. It's gonna leak everywhere. Another one. So we're just gonna leave coal at coal. Another one we have is called fossiliferous limestone. So this is limestone that has fossils in it. That's what it means. Limestone with fossils. Yep. I don't know if you can see those lumps. I don't know if you can tell if they're fossils. These ones are snail shells. If it's entirely made of fossils, we call it coquina. Coquina. If entirely made of fossils. And then, you know what this is too, but chalk is in this category because it's made out of little tiny microorganisms that live in the sea. We'll talk about fossils another time, and in that time we will go on a field trip to look at the little... Well, we got like 3 minutes left, so we're not going on a field trip today. But maybe I'll keep the little dead baby squirrel in a baggie. and then when we talk about fossils, I'll bring it back out and we'll see how much it stinks. Bye.